It's January 27th, 2019. And so, um, more thoughts on evolutionary, uh, pragmatic, naturalistic social conservatism. So, if you're like a person who left traditional religion, um, you might think to yourself, well, what are the main reasons why social conservatism advocacy within traditional religions, why does it make you upset? And I think that the main reason is hypocrisy. So it's not so much, I would suggest to you, like if you just separate out the granular details of what's being advocated for. I suggest that if you really kind of think about it, if you kind of allow yourself to be honest, I'm just saying this is my opinion, right? But I think if you allow yourself to be honest, the main objections to social conservatism from traditional religion is not so much the content of the advocacy, it's the fact that traditional religions are so fucking hypocritical. That's the main objection. So, in my neighborhood, there was this guy named Dave Pruden, and he advocated for a group called Evergreen. That Evergreen is a group that helps sexual inverts inside Mormonism become less sexually inverted. Now, if you can Google for what the term sexual invert means, that's sounds a little more nice over the tongue, and that's really what it is sexual inversion. So anyway, and the Dave Pruden was kind of a fruity man, a little effeminate, a little bit, and so you think, well, why does Mr. Pruden want to have a big advocacy for a group that helps people not be sexual inverts? Well, was it because he was a sexual invert, or because, oh well, he just saw how being a sexual invert kind of destroyed and stunted your life a little bit? So I don't know, one or the other or both. Who knows? Who cares? But in any case, what we should care about is the fact that Mormonism is utterly hypocritical with regard to matters of sex, matters of morals, matters of advocating the people, telling people what they should do to live a happy life. The Mormon Church is utterly hypocritical on that. Why? Because the founder of the Mormonism had a 14-year-old wife and wives who were still legally married to other men. The second kind of new founder of Mormonism after they moved to Utah. If you look at about the history of things, Brigham Young was kind of essentially a second founder, just because of the way things kind of played out, and he kind of hijacked Mormonism to some extent, and the Mormon stuff, and people followed him. But there were other groups who followed other people, like the what's now called the Community of Christ, the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They're another branch which didn't follow the Brigham Young line. But in any case, Brigham Young had a 15-year-old wife and wives who were still legally married to other men. And so when you're legally married to another man, that's technically called when your wife is still legally married to another man, that's called adultery. She's not really your wife, she's your mistress. So Brigham Young had some women who were his mistresses, and they were not his legal wife. But so that's hypocritical to have that situation, and then later have people like Spencer Kimball and Boyd Packer be really concerned about what's happening in your bedroom and have mandatory bishop interviews with regard to those matters. When you kind of try to merge those two things, and then you hear somebody like Dave Pruden talking about advocacy for evergreen to help people recover from sexual inversion, mental disorder. And let me say that again: sexual inversion, mental disorder. When you try to help people recover from sexual inversion, mental disorder, then or whatever, mental disorder, or let's say mimetic abusive sidetrack. How about that? It's not exactly, may not be a mental disorder, but it's just your brain kind of got sidetracked into kind of a dead end, bunch of bullshit, time wasting, stupid stuff. And so, anyway, have I pushed enough trigger buttons yet on the SJW list? So when you hear Dave Pruden talk about advocacy for evergreen, you think, well, fuck, your stupid church is very hypocritical. Why would you tell me what to do in my bedroom? But if you try to evolutionarily and naturalistically separate what's being advocated for, then you realize, okay, from a naturalistic and evolutionary perspective, what's being advocated for, yeah, that might be good if you can ideally have a wife and children, and you get to have new children, and you're cutting yourself off from that having children and from our 1.2 billion year evolutionary heritage with regard to that. Well, yeah, that might be kind of a good thing to do, but the person telling you that information shouldn't be a fucking hypocrite, right? So it's the fucking hypocritical nature of Mormonism that kind of fucks up that. So you basically, what happens is, because of the abuse, the hypocritical nature of Mormonism, they actually end up fucking people up more, because then people want to feel like they have to react against the hypocrisy of Mormonism, and the way they feel they need to react against the hypocrisy of Mormonism is to basically do the exact opposite of what the people like Dave Pruden and the Evergreen Group were saying. Now, because what was being advocated for with regard to avoiding sexual inversion was actually use selectivity, it's like the hypocrisy of Mormonism ended up fucking you up, because you're acting in a way which is technically evolutionarily bad, but the reason you're doing that is because of the hypocrisy of a church like the Mormon Church. Now, a similar thing happens with regard to the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church advocates for social conservative stuff, right? They advocate for being pro-life, against abortion. They advocate for not using birth control. They're kind of against sexual inversion, but a number of Catholic priests are basically predatory sexual inverts. And a number of Catholic priests rape children. A number of Catholic priests are pedophiles. So, if you're a person who's trying to recover from the Catholic Church, you're upset with the hypocrisy of the Catholic Church. You're upset with the fact that the Catholic Church has within it a bunch of child rapists who are being protected by other child rapists. Right. So you have that in one part of your brain. And then you hear the advocacy for social conservatism from these people who are otherwise abusive freaks. And then, because the abusive freaks are the one advocating for the social conservatism, is the reason why you feel inclined to reject the social conservatism. But here's what you need to do. Kind of have here to kind of help you separate out these conflicting variables and conflicting situation. Essentially engage in a control experiment with regard to the situation. Now, this is essentially what I did with my own life personally. I engaged in what it was essentially a control experiment with regard to whether social conservatism is a bunch of bullshit or whether there might be some evolutionary, naturalistic value to it. So the control experiment I engaged in was going to China and getting a wife. Now in China, there's social conservatism. In China, they discourage sexual inversion. In China, they're pro-family. In China, well, aside from the totalitarian communists limiting it, but out in the countryside, away from Beijing, they're kind of more pro-children, and they're out in the countryside away from the big cities. You have homegrown grassroots social conservatism. Homegrown grassroots. No Catholic Church there, mostly. No Mormon Church there, even no Bible, no Book of Mormon, no Spencer Kimball, no Boyd Packer. They don't even know who these people are. Who the fuck is Spencer Kimball? They don't know. Boyd Packer? Yeah. They don't know. They don't know who Dave Pruden is. They don't know what Evergreen is. They don't even know that the Catholic Church has a big problem with harboring a bunch of predatory gay child rapists. They don't know anything about that. So all they've got running in their brains mostly is homegrown social conservatism that has nothing to do with the Catholic Church or the Mormon Church. Okay? So one key thing I'd like you to just remember that is you're hearing to someone like me talk about how social conservatism might have some evolutionary value, and you get a sick feeling in your stomach, like, what the fuck? I hate social conservatism. You might get that feeling in your, like you just threw up in your mouth when you were hearing someone advocating for the value of social conservatism, right? But realize that the one thing I wanted to kind of get across is the reason that you're kind of feeling that way, it's less to do with the value of the social conservative elements, the evolved morality. It's less to do with whether that's a value or not. Because if you kind of think to yourself, and even if you kind of talk to the sexual inverts like Milo Yiannopoulos and some other people, they kind of say, I kind of wish that I liked pussy more, and like I could find a woman who would not reject my slightly femmy nature. Right? Ask your average sexual invert if it would be if they wish that there was a way that they could have a normal life. Let's put it that way, okay? A normal life with children, with a wife, and they, some people they just kind of miss the chance, their opportunity to do that. Some people they just miss their opportunity to do that, and they say, well, ideally, I wish that I wasn't so-called married to this guy, and I wish that I kind of had a woman who wasn't a fat pig feminazi, who could have family values and who liked having children and who didn't want to attack me for being a man and who didn't want to divorce me like that and who didn't want to just quick threaten me all the time and have Damocles sword over me. Yeah, I kind of wish that I didn't have to be with this guy because of basic problems in Western culture and with regard to the status of women and the downstream effect of eugenicist Margaret Sanger's birth control pill. So was there a little bit too much red pilling with regard to that last sentence? Part of the reason that there's so much abusiveness in the West is because of the downstream effect of Margaret Sanger's birth control pill. She helped bankroll it. Okay? Separating sex from reproduction has basically fucked up a lot of people, including the sexual inverts. Now, you might say some people are maybe naturally that sexually inverted, but I don't know. I don't think that's really the case. I think it's more the case of just people's brains, which are neural networks, getting kind of sidetracked into kind of a side. It's kind of a sidetrack, a sidebar with regard to that situation. It's kind of a sidebar. It's kind of a culture unto itself, and it's more like a cult than the lefties will admit. So why do I care? Why do I care is because I'm thinking about, I go into a gift shop while on a work trip, and I see two lesbians, kind of checking out the gift shop. One is kind of frumpy and kind of a little ugly, and the other is even more ugly and fat, and she has a mohawk haircut, and she has tattoos, and you realize, these people are not really naturally this way. No, I'm sorry, it's just not. What is natural is that we have brains that can be sidetracked. We can have brains that can be sidetracked into Mormonism. We can have brains that can be sidetracked into Scientology. We have brains that can be sidetracked into other kind of cults. We have brains that can be sidetracked into the Jim Jones bunch of bullshit. We have brains that can be sidetracked into David Koresh's thing. We have brains that can be sidetracked, and here's the part that's really kind of the key nub of the situation. We also have brains that can be sidetracked into the LGBTQ PZ cult, secular cult. Okay? Born that way is a fucking lie. No. What you were born with is a brain that can be easily hijacked. That's it. Period. And religions couch evolved traits. Religions couch evolved traits, evolved morals. So while the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church are fucking hypocritical, the morality that is humming along within those structures is humming along for naturalistic evolutionary reasons. And some of those reasons are damn useful. And if you don't like the hypocrisy of the Mormon Church or the Catholic Church, then just go to China and in a rural village and see what's happening there. And then you can kind of separate out the hypocrisy bullshit and see what humans are really up to. So that's, like it or not, that's what I think. In today's world, people will do all sorts of stuff to attack ideas like this. They'll attack you personally. They'll ban you. I've been banned from a shitload of Facebook lefty-run forums. I was banned from Atheists of Utah when I came out as a Duck Dynasty supporter. And I've been banned from a shitload of Facebook forums. And, I'm glad that as an ex-Mormon, I can say the word shit, fucking damn a lot. as much as I please. They have expletives have their uses. I could go down to the wine shop, and I can buy myself some wine if I want, and I can get drunk, and the Mormon God is not going to punish me. My wife might punish me. My wife has more wrath than the Mormon God, I think. Hi, honey. Hi. My wife has more wrath than the Mormon God. But my wife's also much nicer than the Mormon God. you know. So when you hear religious people talk, when they use the word God, just realize that when they say God tells us to do this, God gives us our morality, just replace the word God with evolution, and you'll be able to interpret what the fuck it is they're saying in a more honest way. Okay? So anyway, I just want people to be happy, and I think we can be happy by being honest about what the fucking situation is with regard to the human condition. Don't shame your kids with regard to masturbation. That's true. Have oral sex with your partner. Don't follow the strictures of Mormon prophet Spencer Kimball on this front. That's true. Have oral sex with your spouse. That will help your marriage. Do that. Have vaginal sex too. Vaginal sex is required for happy marriage. That's true. So, am I being fucking honest enough? Am I being fucking honest enough yet? Huh? I just want people to be happy. So, get married, have some kids, have as many kids as you can. Don't follow the what was I going to say? Sorry. I'm trying to drive without getting my little car hit. What the hell was I saying? Yeah. Don't follow the lefty view that you should reduce. That overpopulation is a myth. Climate hysteria is a cult. These are nihilistic cults also. Okay? Now, fuck, I have a university education. I minored in physics. I'm not a dumb shit. At least I try not to be. Climate hysteria is a cult. It's a nihilistic dead-end cult. Just as much as a fucking cult as any cult. Why? Because it has dogma, doctrine, heresy trials, excommunications. It has priests, de facto priests. It's not science. Overpopulation is a myth. So what these leftists, they get in their brain, why would they want all humans to die? Because leftism is a dead-end nihilistic cult. It's a death cult. So anyway, today you were hearing more of my red-pilled views. Is this enough of the red pill for you? Anyway, just keep it simple. KISS. Keep it simple, smarty. If you don't like Mormonism, if you don't like hypocrisy of Mormonism, if you don't like the hypocrisy of Catholicism, then just go to fucking China in a rural village and find out what the fuck it is they're doing. Okay? So that's my advice. All right. And I liked pussy. To my sister who got a degree in social work, she got educated by a bunch of dumb shit postmodernists in school. I like pussy. I like children. I like having my place on the Great Mandela be there. The Great Mandela, the chain of life. Win or lose now, you must choose now. I suggest choosing life. All right? You'll have more fun. And the only reason it sounds like I'm not having fun is because I see how there's secular cults that destroy people's lives. So it's not just Mormonism that's a problem. All right? Okay.